Do you see this number right here? Yeah, if your prize pick entries are not beating this number, then you are actually guaranteed to lose money, even if you feel like you're hitting a lot. And this one, most people don't even come close to it, yet they're still firing off 3-pick powers like they're free money. But these are the break-even points PrizePicks definitely doesn't want you thinking about, because these are the most profitable slips that you can be making on their platform. So if you've ever wondered why your bankroll slowly bleeds out, even during those hot streaks, this is probably the main reason right here. But that is all okay, because in today's video, what I am going to be showing you is the spreadsheet that I've created that exposes the math behind PrizePicks and how we are going to use Outlier to absolutely change the way that we bet and become profitable sports bettors. This is not vibes, this is not trends, this is not, bro, he's due. This is just plain and simple math. Now, before I pull it up, I must warn you that once you understand what these numbers mean and how to actually use them, you're never going to start building these slips the same way again. I've calculated the exact hit rates that you need from every single slip type on PrizePick. That includes anything from a 2-pick power all the way to a 6-pick flex. It shows you the actual probability that you need per pick. And spoiler, most people aren't getting anywhere near it. So let's go ahead and dive in, and I'll show you exactly what you need to be looking for on these bets for PrizePicks. Okay, so once we get to Outlier, what you're gonna need to do in order to see these plays is just simply go to the positive EV tab on the left-hand sidebar, and then from there, the only filter that I have set up right now is just the book that I want to show, and that is just simply PrizePicks. Once I do that, it's going to show me all of the positive EV plays for PrizePicks. Now, what I see here is the positive EV percentage, and this is compared to what I'm getting from PrizePicks, which is currently -119, and their fair values. This is maybe the most important thing, is -142. That is actually the two numbers that we are comparing, is our fair value odds compared to the odds that we are actually getting on PrizePicks. Because if we hit this drop down, what we actually see, the only book that this is defaulting to be devigged to is Pinnacle, which is currently favored at -168 and then +126. But if this is at -168, why is this at -142? Well, that's our fair value. This is how Pinnacle and all of these other sportsbooks are going to profit, is through their VIG, the juice that they apply. So although what we should really be getting this at is -142, but Pinnacle's got to make their money, so they price it at -168. Now, you can go and double check this in a fair value calculator. I have a custom one that I built. So again, this was -168, and then the under was at +126. And again, that gives us a fair value of that -142. Now, when we compare this at -119, again, that gives us roughly an 8% EV. Now, what is going to happen, and really the beauty that we can do when we're looking at Outlier, is that we can select different DVIG books. So if we wanted to look at Pinnacle, but we also wanted to look at FanDuel, we can go ahead and set that, and then now that filters it out. So it makes both of those plays optional. And let's see if we can find a play here. So this Anthony Black play, it's that same exact play that we were looking at. Now it's dropped from a 7.9% EV down to a 2.61. And that's mainly because, again, Pinnacle has this priced at -168. FanDuel has this price at -128. So again, if I put that in just to double check, so I go -128, and then the under was at 100. You can see that, again, we're getting that at -126. And -126 is our fair value line. So again, that is the number that we care about, not so much all of this. But the important thing to note here is that you can select the books that you feel most confident in, and then those are the slips that you can start to create, as it's going to simply just take the average of these two, and that's going to give you your fair value odd. Now, you may be asking, why does this 126 matter so much? Well, that is the exact bread and butter of this video. So if we go back and look at this custom spreadsheet that I have for you, and we look at PrizePicks, what we're looking at when we look at PrizePicks is our minimum, our break-even percentage, right? Which is going to be our minus 137 for 2-pick powers, minus 122 for 3-pick powers, and so on and so forth. So again, why this is so important is because if we go back and look at this, let's just say that we have these 2 plays. We want to go and just make a 2-pick power, but we only want to use these 2 plays, and this is where most sports bettors mess up. So if we see this play, it's at minus 131, this one's at minus 127. That is going to give us an average of, I believe, minus 129. So if we go in here, we know that our minimum break-even point is minus 137. So let's just put that in at minus 137. So what we're looking at is our return on investment. As you can see there, our return on investment is 0.25%. If we go less, let's go minus 136. We can see that now all of a sudden our return on investment is negative. So we know that our break-even point is that minus 137. That is what we have to do in order to, again, long-term at least hit 0. We're not going to win, but I think more importantly, we're not going to lose either. So obviously the goal is to shoot higher for that. But what we had was that those 2 plays, although they are EV, they don't meet our criteria. So we changed that to minus 129. What we're actually getting is a return on investment of minus 4.8%, meaning that for every $100 that we place, we're expected to lose $4.80. So all of this to say that all of these PrizePicks slips are built completely different because, as I mentioned, with the 2-pick power, what we're looking at is minus 137. But then all of a sudden we go down to a 3-pick power, and now what we're looking at is minus 122. So let's take a look at these 3 plays here. So again, we can probably roughly estimate this to be about minus 128. I don't know the exact fair value that we're getting the average between these, but let's just say that if we combine these 3 plays, what we're going to get is minus 128. Well, if we see our break-even percentage is minus 122, yes, our return on investment is technically negative here, but that's because this is not necessarily minus 122. It's probably gonna be like minus 122.4. And there you go. So again, yeah, that's kind of our break even. That rounds down to minus 122, not the minus 122.4. So anyways, what I said was minus 128. And now all of a sudden, all we did was combine these 3 plays into a 3-pick power. And now what we have is a positive return on investment. So instead of taking the top 2 plays and losing $5 for roughly every $100 that we bet, now what we're doing is we are gaining $6.16 for every $100 that we bet. Now you may be asking yourself, hey, sometimes these minus 122 and definitely minus 137s can be very difficult to hit. Where are those minus 119s that we're seeing on Outlier? Well, those are actually in our 6-pick flexes and the 5-pick flexes as well. Those are your most optimal slip types at minus 119. Now, how do we come up with this minus 119 number? Well, first and foremost, the most important thing that you're going to need to look at is what are your win percentages. So as you can see here, although it's a 6-pick flex, there are actually 7 different outcomes. You can indeed go 0 out of 6, not hit a single play, and that's going to happen about 1% of the time with our break-even point at that minus 119. Again, if we were to bump that up to minus 125, we can actually see these numbers start to change. But let's go back to minus 119. So that's going to expect to happen 1% of the time, going 1 out of 6, 6.5%. But really where we see a chunk of these numbers is anywhere from a 2 out of 6 to 4 out of 6. That is a big chunk of these numbers. But thankfully on the flex, what's going to happen is if we go 4 out of 6, we're actually going to get a 0.4 payout. So again, if our bet size is $100, we bet $100, we're actually only going to lose $60 because what we get back is $40 from that play. So again, we just lose $60, but there is a potential to recoup a little bit of our money. 5 out of 6 is where we actually get a 2x payout, which is where we profit $100. And then if we go 6 out of 6, what we get is a 24x payout or 25x payout, which is a 24x profit, right? So that's where we see that $2,400. So again, that's how we can calculate all of this. Now, the important thing to note is this number right here, this 2.6%. The odds that we actually go 6 out of 6 on our break-even point of minus 119 is less than 3% of the time. Again, put that in numbers. you place this exact bet 100 times, you're only going to hit about 3 of those. And to even take that another step further, the odds that you are actually going to get money back in general, profit money in general, going either 5 out of 6 or 6 out of 6, is roughly 16% of the time, 15.6% of the time with our break-even percentage. But again, obviously, if we can hit higher than that, then that would be even better. So let's say instead of minus 119, we were to hit that minus 125, now all of a sudden we can see these numbers start to change drastically. So now instead of the 15.6, now what we're seeing is 17% between the two of these. That's much better than what we saw was our return on investment. Our return on investment, I believe, was 1%, jumped all the way up to 13%. Now, again, I know finding 6 plays at minus 125 can be quite difficult. Sometimes when we look back at this, we're only going to see 3 plays. But let's remove these DVIG books and see what this has to load for us and seeing what exactly we can work with. Now, again, important to note here, what this is going to default to is just Pinnacle as the DVIG book. I do recommend setting your own filters and not just relying on Pinnacle. The more the better. What I highly recommend is just using these first 6 books, listing them all as optional. But for the purpose of this video, we will take a look at here. What we have are just 5 picks, but that's okay because again, what we have is a 5-pick power and a 5-pick flex. Now, what you can do is use either one of these because for our 5-pick power, this is minus 122. For our 5-pick flex, again, that's our most optimal slip type is at minus 119. So if we look across these, we can take a rough estimate. Let's just say that this is gonna come in somewhere around minus 125. Minus 124, minus 125. So again, our break-even point, what we have is our 0% kind of. So we have minus 125. Let's put that in both slip types, minus 125. Now, I get a lot of questions about this. Is a power or a flex the correct way to go? Well, as long as you're hitting your minimum percentage, it doesn't really matter, right? Because if you hit minus 125, your return on investment jumps up to 5.8%. But then the same thing with the flex, that's going to jump up to 8.81%. So you can choose to do either, right? But again, what I recommend is taking the higher return on investment. It is going to be a lower payout. But again, when you are positive EV betting, you worry about the long term, not how much money can I win tonight. Now, an even cooler thing, especially with all of these DFS sites, is this isn't only exclusive to PrizePicks. You can actually use this across all of the different DFS sites. For instance, you can do this with Underdog, and Underdog might honestly be one of the most slept on books. And you can already see it here. Underdog for a 2-pick power is at minus 115 for our break-even point. Again, as opposed to PrizePicks, what we're looking at was the minus 117. All you need on Underdog is a minus 115. So again, let's just say that we found those 2 plays at minus 137 that we were going to take on PrizePicks, but now we found them on Underdog. If we were to take that bumps our return on investment up all the way to 17%, and all we're looking at is 2 plays. Now, why is that? Well, you can see here that what we're getting on a payout from Underdog is actually a 3.5x. So what we're going to get is a profit of $250 or 2.5x profit, as opposed to PrizePicks, all we're going to get is a 2x profit. So that's why just that half profit extra bumps this percentage significantly down. And that's pretty much all across the board. Instead of minus 122 on Underdog, now you're looking at minus 116. And really, I think that maybe the most slept on slip that you can really take across all of these DFS sites is an Underdog 4 flex. That's at minus 108. It's incredible. And the reason that this is so low at minus 108, so let's say again, minus 108, that's our break-even point with return on investment nearly 0, is because these are all of our possible outcomes. Obviously, if we go 0 out of 4, 1 out of 4, 2 out of 4, we are going to lose our money. But then the second we actually go 3 out of 4, what we get is a 1.x payout. But if we go 4 out of 4, we get a 7.2x payout. So if we go 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 4, we're actually going to profit money. That alone is incredible. That's nothing that you see across any other DFS site. So that's the reason that this number is so incredibly low. Even if you were to play this at minus 115, kind of the even odds, that's still a break-even percentage of 10%. Now, in the next video, what I'm going to be breaking down is actually these calculators and telling you kind of a side-by-side comparison. We'll be going over the variance and everything else, a deeper breakdown into this sheet and what you need to understand if you want to become a profitable, positive EV sports bettor. So now you've seen the math behind every single slip type between PrizePicks and Underdog. So now you should never start just building these slips randomly without trying to at least memorize or look at what your break-even percentage is. Now, if you need help remembering what those break-even numbers are, go ahead, pause the video right now, screenshot this visual, and refer back to it every single time. So remember, betting is just a numbers game. It is not a gut feeling. Put that to the side because now you finally understand whether your slips are going to be profitable or slowly eat at your bankroll over time. Nonetheless, I look forward to seeing y'all in the next video. Best of luck sports betting today and in the future.